Welcome to Unknown Kazakhstan. My name is Daniil Blumov and I am a discovery hunter. Climbing up to the very top in order to plunge to the very bottom. Reeling up hundreds of kilometers in order to wind off hundreds of years. The unknown KZ crew already has a trace of sensational discoveries behind it, shared by self-sacrificing scientists and desperate travelers, who once again will expose riddles and secrets. You learn right now. In this episode, Extreme Archaeology, what it's all about. Why burial of the founder of Turkish people is being searched for in Kazakhstan. And what is the fate of search for lost city of Jand? These objects of the Museum of History and Local Lore of Kızılorda for a long time will remain in my memory. After all, they caused my trip to one of the most ambiguous archaeological sites in Kazakhstan. It has been discovered in the 20th century by the Khwarezm Archaeological and Ethnographical Expedition headed by Tolstoy during discovery works. This is how the history of mysterious ancient city of Jankala of Jand for me has begun.
Мы с вами в пустыне, настоящей.
We are in the real desert, sun-scorched earth, deep cracks on it and Saksaul. And not a soul around, apart from a small group of archaeologists familiar to me. They are not far away looking for the oldest, legendary city of Jand. Now I will tell you a little more about it.
Подробнее о нем я вам сейчас и поведаю.
The first archaeological expeditions were organized in 1946, 1958 and 1961. According to their results, scientists came to the conclusion that it was precisely the medieval city of Jand revealed during the excavations. People started tremblingly talking about the findings since written sources connect a lot of historical events with it. In the 10th century, it belonged to the Oguzes. From the Oguzes. Many peoples originate from the Oguzes, including Turks, Azerbaijanis, Turkmens and Kazakhs, in whose ethnogenesis they've left their trace. Since the 11th century and before the Mongolian invasion, Jand was a significant city on the banks of Zhana Darya, the oldest of the southern channels of the Sirdarya. Famous people of the Muslim world lived here. According to the medieval works of Cihan Nama in the 12th century, even the Aral Sea was called the Sea of Jand, and Kızılkum Desert the Desert of Jand. But if it really is the city of Jand, one of the capital centers of the Oguzes, then it keeps many secrets. The main of them is that according to written sources, Seljuk, the founder of the Seljuk state, was buried here. And if now we turn our mind to modern Turkey, at every turn we'll see that every store, every house of cultural street carries the name of Seljuk. This is such an ancestor who is much appreciated and honored. If we really deal with an object where he was buried, imagine what a sensation could be the opening of his mausoleum, a sensation of the world scale. The opinion that this is the city of Jand has firmly entered the literature and was accepted by scientific community for a long time. And in 2009, Kazakh archaeologists tapped into the ancient city. The object got the working name of Jankala, which was also common among the local population. Among the first excavation, where there used to be the clarity in judgments, the darkness reigned. When we went here, we thought that this place would be the same as before the discovery of Otra or Altanasa. That is, the traces will be more evident. But when we came here and saw a Saksaul forest, we began to doubt that there could be anything. But in the lifting material ceramics, fragments of bones and much more was revealed. We realized that there is an ancient city below. Again, we couldn't tell whether it was Jand or not. On the site of the ancient settlement, fragments of mud-bricked walls are preserved, which look especially captivating at night. There was only Saksaul and old buildings of the 19th century when we arrived here. We think they served as defensive structures, because after the formation of Khiva Khanate, such fortifications were established to preserve this land under personal influence. And these walls behind my back are the remains of such constructions of the 19th century. Now we are trying to restore the chronology of the development of major centers of various states. For example, the Oguzes, the Kipchaks and the Khwarezm Shahs. We know for sure that Khwarezm Shah Atsiz conquered Jand in a unique way. He crossed the desert in a very short time, in almost a day, and unexpectedly went to the walls of Jand and captured the city. Afterwards, in one of his letters, he called the Jand's conquest one of the greatest achievements of his grace. And he called Jand the last outpost of Islam and the fortress in front of the raging sea of nomads. It means that for him it was a very important outpost, a very powerful city, on which in fact, as on one of the pillars, his statehood and his power were built. Even now, it is impossible to imagine what kind of a city it was, with a total area of 40 hectares, which is more than 40 football stadiums. Even upon the ruins, it will take at least an hour to circuit its perimeter.
Чья-то полевая рука построила огромный город с стенами, с великолепными...
Someone's strong-willed hand built a huge city with walls and magnificent examples of landscape architecture, with numerous mosques, caravanserais, citadel and many channels, irrigation structures, some incomprehensible constructions, mausoleums and minarets. All this in one city. What is this city? What is its name if it's not Jand?
Минаретами. Это все один город. Что это за город? Какое его имя, если это не Джен?
It is up to us to learn. Tomorrow, with the first sun rays, together with archaeologists, we'll go out to the excavation site. The first thing we have to do is to determine the date of the city foundation. All this will be done by means of collecting and analyzing all materials that we'll find on its territory. Secondly, we'll need to find out the purpose of the two definite premises at the site of the fort. Correspondingly, we'll learn how and of what material they were built. We have to restore the architectural layout in general. Under what name was this city known in the Middle Ages? Scientists have to find coins or signs of a mint. Only this can be a turning point in the study of the site of ancient settlement, which is called by researchers Jankala. At this place, morning for archaeologists starts early. At 6 a.m. they should already be at the excavation site. The work schedule is very dense and loaded because already by 1 p.m. the sun heats the earth and air up to 50 degrees. In addition, we are at one of the camps of researchers in Kazakhstan. A major center of mysterious ancient civilization lies far enough from the present one. It is 115 kilometers from here to Kızılorda. There will be enough food for a week only. The water is precious, like the gold of Incas. As to its structure, the ancient settlement of Jankala has a classical division into citadel, Shakristan and Rabat. The fortified citadel is represented by several elements: the so-called palace, the surrounding outer wall and the angular northeastern tower. The outer wall of the citadel is a meter wide. It surrounds the palace and forms the inner space of the citadel of 75 by 75 meters. Shakristan is also surrounded by a wall, the width of which is 5 meters, including slides. Directions of walls of Shakristan duplicate directions of the walls of the citadel. There are several large objects here, among which 2 could be caravanserais. And now archaeologists have concentrated on 2 other constructions. We are now at the object number 11. Here, according to prognosis, was a mausoleum or a place for prayers. In 2009, when this place was found, southeastern wall was still in preserved state. But in these conditions, under the scorching sun, it collapses. Since this object is in emergency conditions, we need to urgently determine its archaeological properties. Here, raw and burnt bricks were used in confusion, and we need to understand how this structure was built. Were construction materials brought here or the local raw materials were used? While inspecting surroundings of the structure, we noticed the places for production of burnt bricks. It is estimated that the size of this mosque is 12 by 7 meters. This construction is attributed to commemorative one. There are 2 halls, the outer Gokana and the inner actual mosque. An amateur cannot immediately understand how scholars judge upon such a clay chaos underfoot. How do you determine the wall borders? To begin with, we determined the base of the wall and the cause of its destruction. For example, the wall opposite to me was washed by the water. We dug up the foundation and saw it. They dug down the ground and laid the foundation, and then they put a wall upon it. And the foundation was buried again to be more solid. But the weather still took its toll and over centuries destroyed the wall. At first glance, looking at the ruins, this mess does not show how everything was built. Digging below, it becomes evident that the wall was built qualitatively, since bricks lie very evenly. Scientists have broken one more excavation nearby. Initially, it was believed that this is also a mosque that served townspeople hundreds of years ago. However, it turns a problem to establish its exact purpose. A building that was overbuilt later, most likely in the 19th century, shuffled all kinds of scientists. Its layout is not similar to others. Here you can see that they laid down reeds on the basis of the wall. This was done for earthquake resilience, so that the walls would not crack and collapse. And ash was poured on top of it, since it is waterproof. It turns out that reeds and ashes served as the foundation. The walls were placed above. The sun rose high above Jankala. It became impossible to stay at the excavation. The rays incinerate everything on their path. Archaeologists return to the camp. It is necessary to study the findings. All artifacts will now be occupied by a ceramic artist. Colored ceramics, which is very rare, is considered an important element of lifting material. We know that there were workshops with ovens on the production of ceramics. Now the task of a specialist is not only to draw discovered fragments of ceramics, but also to date them. In all ages, ceramics were decorated in different ways. For example, during the time of Karakhanids, white and brown colors were often used. Later in the times of Mongols, blue and yellow colors were used. And they did not have patterns, but geometrical figures, unlike Karakhanids. In the days of Timur, a sky blue color was used and vessels were decorated with a grapevine pattern. And here we find the remains of ceramics without patterns and inscriptions. The pottery itself is yellow. As a result of their research, scientists have discovered that there are no materials from the pre-Mongol period on the site. But they should have been in Jand. After all, Jand existed and actively participated in political and cultural life of the state of the Oguzes, the Seljuks and the Karakhanids long before the appearance of the Mongols. Monetary complex received at Jankala also is not pleasing. Coins collected by us prove that the entire coin complex fits, in fact, in 50 years. This is a unique phenomenon. That is, 50 years old coins of the middle of the 14th century circulated here. They are diverse. There are Indian coins proving the abroad trade. There are coins that have been minted in our region, but there is not a single coin of Jand. So we ask the question, if there are no Jand coins, no earlier and later materials, but we know that the medieval Jand existed since the 8th century and up to the 16th century, then where are these materials and coins? It means that local people lived here for a short period of time. The lower date of existence of the fortified settlement can be attributed to the period no earlier than the 14th century. Therefore, scientists put forward the belief that the ancient settlement of Jankala, where excavation was made, is not the ruins of Jand. Until recently, archaeologists thought that Jankala, the object that we're exploring, is the medieval Jand. But our recent research seems to have definitely debunked this theory. It means that we do not think that we're investigating the medieval Jand, but we're exploring some huge city which is now called by the local population and is recorded in archaeological literature as Jankala. Jankala means a new city. What new city? Who was it built by? A huge medieval city also of the middle of the 14th century.
Средневековый, тоже середина 14 века.
Что же это получается?
What do we face? There are few arguments in favor of the fact that this site is the most monumental, legendary and famous city of Jand, than proofs of the fact that it is another, again uncertain and unknown city. But this is only the second season that archaeologists are carrying out excavations on this site, which means that the time for discoveries is yet to come. See you soon.